Topping Talks.
Let's see it.
105 hours a week, can't be beat. Welcome to Topping Talks. Topping Talks is a topping tribute introduction, and today's episode is probably sponsored by Topping Technologies and ExpressVPN. We are also on Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of your favorite streaming platforms. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, are you part of the 3.6% of Americans who still care about your privacy? If you are, then perfect. ExpressVPN can assist. Even though 96% of stats are made up on the spot, ExpressVPN does give a 100% guarantee via the 30-day back-mind guarantee. Now, without further ado, today I'm proud to say I'm interviewing Richard Freisberg, who is the VP of IT at Bluechip, as well as being a fellow entrepreneur. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, winding back the clock a couple of years, how did you first get into IT?
Well, I've always been interested in IT ever since I was in high school. I moved to Texas probably around 2005, and I was actually selling lakefront real estate with my brother. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time right around Hurricane Katrina. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out so well.
No?
So I started to work for a company called James One. I was actually doing phone sales for them for a little while. And then I just kind of found my way back into IT and started doing a lot of their IT stuff for the dialers, and then I started writing software for them.
Really? You already started writing software? That's awesome. What kind of stuff are you writing?
We had a platform to help people make businesses online, a lot of drop shipping stuff. And at the time, it was a really good gig. It was before Amazon was actually doing that. And it was fun, but it just didn't last. But I mean, that's where I kind of got started back into the IT industry again.
That's really cool. What was the most unique thing that you saw that they drop shipped, or a product they saw, or you just couldn't believe they were doing it?
Well, I don't think that we were doing that specifically. We were actually just helping people build their businesses. So we were actually, people would sign up with us and we would teach them how to do the drop shipping. So everybody had their own small businesses. So it was kind of rewarding in that respect.
That's awesome. So you got to help them set it up, and then they got to grow from there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great just to help people out.
Absolutely. And then where'd you go after that?
Right after that, I went to, after that company, I actually started another company with a friend of mine from that company. It was called Best Max Media. We were a marketing and email platform company. We dealt mainly with residential real estate. A lot of companies out there that do a lot of the residential real estate where they're building all the houses, production homes. And we were doing a lot of their marketing for them. And we had a platform that would actually just send out a ton of emails back and forth. Emails were a really bad problem for a lot of people. And then, all the email rules came out.
I'm sure the email open rates were fantastic back in the day.
You can imagine. We had I think we had a list of every real estate agent in the United States. So we would just...
Oh, my God.
Bombard people in areas like Southern California or San Francisco or places like that. And it actually worked out really well for these companies. Like Meritage Homes, I think, is one of our biggest clients at that time.
That's very cool. So what was it like building? Was it an automation email delivery platform? Because I know nowadays a lot of people know in terms of like a major logo and platform. I know SurveyMonkey, the MailChimp is a really popular one. I know a lot of folks use that one.
Yeah, it was before any of that even existed. So this is back before 2008. So so we were really just starting to, all the spam rules were just starting to come out. I actually had servers all over the world because we were sending out so many emails at that point in time.
Really? What was it like building out that infrastructure? Because that's before AWS, or you could just swipe your credit card and rent a server. You had to physically sending servers all over the globe?
Well, no, we were actually renting the servers. It was just, we were just hitting different hosting places. The biggest problem is hitting IP addresses, and IP addresses getting blocked. But yeah, no, it was interesting. I knew it wasn't sustainable because of the all the spam rules and stuff like that. We didn't like spamming people. I didn't want to spam a lot of people. But we actually helped a lot of these companies out. That was really good as far as like the bigger production builders like Meritage Homes and stuff like that. They were actually getting a lot of responses from our emails.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Yeah. And what was the most challenging part of building that business or building the platform?
Oh, just building the platform, right? Yeah. I mean, you had to be ahead of any of the servers, and not get your IPs blocked.
True.
Because the IPs are, today we're running out of IPs, and that's why we have IPv6. But back in the day, they're still limited, and so we needed to keep everything kind of on the down low as much as possible.
And can you explain just the concept of IPs, just for like my parents are listening at home, and how that works out?
Oh, internet providers, the address basically, so it's like your address at your home, right? So your address at your home is actually what the Postal Service knows how to deliver your mail to you. The IPs work the exact same way. Anytime you type in anything like Yahoo or Google on the internet, it knows that it's actually a number it has to go to. So everything has to have an IP address for any internet traffic to be delivered, especially emails.
That's the perfect analogy. I couldn't not have said it any better myself.
Oh, thank you. So, anyway, so that was a great job. And I enjoyed it a lot. I knew we needed to switch just for this, like I said, the kind of the rules that were coming down the pipe. But the reality of it is we didn't last as long as we'd like to because of the 2008 hit.
Oh, real estate.
The real estate crash. And that was our number one customers.
Oh, yeah, that would kind of force you guys to pivot to something else.
Yeah, we had to pivot. Actually, we kind of just went our separate ways after that. And then after that, it's kind of funny. Some of the people from the original place that I worked at James One, we kind of all got back together and we started building some other platforms. And that kind of led us into the next flow of things, which was actually, I think it was Bridge Metrics is the name of that company.
Oh, really? What do you guys do over there?
Yeah, so that company was really interesting. So one of the president of the James One company came to me and asked me to help him build some software at one point in time, right after the 2008 crash. And so we kind of like looked into that, and we realized that there was this big gap between resellers, distributors, and manufacturers. And so what we were trying to do is connect all three of them. And so you being in the IT world, you know that a manufacturer may make a product, but they don't necessarily sell it. Right. And you're looking at especially like a lot of your software like McAfee and places like that. They're not going to be selling it directly. They're going to have their VARs, their value-added resellers sell that. The problem is that what they would have is that the value-added resellers would get all of the leads, usually either from a distributor or a manufacturer of some campaign that they're running, but the manufacturers or the distributors wouldn't know what they did with the leads. So we were trying to connect all three of those.
And try to track it down and see what campaigns are the most efficient, what kind of ROI they're getting, and should they hire that company again or not, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's correct. Especially you're looking at distributors, and distributors know exactly who sells the most product.
Oh yeah.
But they don't necessarily know what happens to the leads that may get delivered to them if they run a big campaign.
What kind of distributors, what kind of industry were we working in? Was it IT or what kind of was it?
We were doing a lot of, like I said, McAfee was like one of our major clients.
Oh, that's an actual, that's incredibly cool.
We had we actually had McAfee, Microsoft, Apple were running campaigns through us. And Ingram Micro was our biggest customer.
I know that name. I think that's still the biggest IT distributor, bar none.
I think they were like at the time, because this is around 2012, I think they were like the 8th largest company in the United States.
I believe it.
So they were really good to us, and actually their marketing partner came to us. They found out what we were doing, and how we were putting things together. And the marketing obviously is producing a lot of the leads, and they wanted to be able to figure out what their ROI was for the leads, and how their manufacturers and the manufacturers would pay them to run the campaigns, and so the manufacturers wanted to know how their ROI was as well. And so that was what our platform did for a lot of times.
That's incredible. And then how do you get the other logos? 'Cause, I mean, Apple, Microsoft, those are the most prestigious logos on the planet.
We had a lot of salespeople.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was actually about 3/4 of our company was in sales, right?
Really?
Yeah, just going through and just calling people. And, McAfee was local at the time. We had a local office, so we had a lot of connections there because our two of the other people that I started the company with, they actually were VARs themselves. So they had a lot of ins and outs with some of those. Some of the cams and things like that. So with different companies,
I bet the sales rep that sold Microsoft and Apple was probably pretty happy on that.
They were. They weren't completely. They weren't like. We had a good relationship with them, but they weren't our biggest customer. Obviously, Ingram Micro was.
Really?
Yeah, Ingram Micro was the majority of our customers, and after a while, Ingram Micro actually we switched direct sales from manufacturers, and we just went through Ingram Micro because Ingram Micro was doing business with all those companies as well.
Makes sense. Then, I'm curious, what was the biggest hurdle or what was the biggest challenge building that company and building that software suite, and how did it work like a rudimentary in terms of like if I were to log in and try to use it? Well, conceptually, yeah.
I think the biggest challenge was just trying to figure out what path we really wanted to go to. If you've ever started a software company, you always have a lot of people that think that they don't know what they want. And the reality of it is, and I say the people that think they know what they want, that's usually the people in charge of the company. They think they know what direction they want to go. And I think that is the biggest challenge with any product, and that is that you really need to listen to your customers. You could have the best product in the world, but if none of your customers want it, you're not going to buy it. So
True.
we went a lot of different ways and a lot of different routes. I think at one point in time we started with a CRM, then we started with a marketing automation platform. We built that into there as well. So we were competing with Marketo, we were competing with Salesforce, we were competing with all these other companies that were already big companies.
Oh, wow.
So we had to dial it down a little bit. And realistically, we kind of put all of those things together so you could still use all those things. And getting into the platform, you would, depending on what you were, whether you're a CAM, whether you work for a VAR, whether you work for a manufacturer, whether you work for a distributor, you're going to see some sort of probably CRM.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, you're going to see exactly where your leads are at, right? So if you were a distributor and you were actually paid for a campaign, and maybe it was McAfee, maybe it was Microsoft that paid for the campaign, you would go in and you would see. Like I said, if you're a distributor, you'd see all the leads. You'd see all your VARs that are actually part of your platform, or that would had the leads delivered to them. You get to see what stages they're in, like a Salesforce.
Really?
And we integrated with Salesforce too, so we could always pull leads in and out of Salesforce and any of the other major CRMs at the time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. It worked out really well. And it was fun to work there because we were always going a different direction. I mean, it was also a nightmare, you know, because you're always like, oh, now you built something, let's turn that, into something completely different. But, it's just the nature of software.
Yeah, what was your most proudest moment or accomplishment from that company?
I think the proudest moment was just building a platform that could do everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous, but no, seriously. It's funny because after that we moved on from that company. I went back and went back and someone actually had bought the software and they asked me to put it all together again to see if I could actually figure out where everything went. And that was just amazing because I couldn't believe we did all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's just because like I said, it did everything and it did it really well. It's just it was a little bit antiquated when they bought the software, but it was great. It was fun.
And then where do you go on from there? And what caused you to move on to a different organization or start up another company?
Well, so Bridgemetrics, our largest client was Ingram Micro at the time. And then Ingram Micro was actually bought out. They actually were purchased by an overseas company in China. And they took our 3-year annual contract and basically, they didn't dump it. They just basically give us 1/4 of the money that they were supposed to give us. So our growth pattern that we'd already had a lot of debt because we kind of ventured in doing leads, producing leads for some of these other manufacturers. And leads are expensive.
Oh, yeah, they get up there.
To find leads, to find salespeople to go out and find leads, qualify them and everything like that, it put us in a big hole. It was just some decisions, and
I can't believe they went back out. So they just choose to break the contract or alter it. That's a big scale back.
It was a big scale back.
25%.
Yeah, it actually hurt quite a bit, and again, so it really very much kind of ended our company.
Yeah, I mean, 80-20 principle. I'm guessing that it was larger. 80% of the revenue probably came from the 20% of the clients.
Yeah,
it's probably that one.
It was. We tried to hang on to it as long as possible, and we tried to. We were actually in the process of pivoting anyway. But that's fine. And, to be honest with you, it was a great run. I was there for about 6 or 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty long run.
Yeah. I mean, you help start the company, you're going to be there for a while.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I was proud to just be a part of the company. But I mean, after that, it was great too, because I kind of wanted to do some other stuff. If you get stuck into like software, and I'm not sure, in traditional IT, it's probably not so much because you kind of have to be on your toes with all the new stuff that comes out. But in software, you can get antiquated. You can actually get stuck in a hole, especially if you're building the same software all the time. So it was nice. So when I got out of there, I started working at Commerce House. Commerce House is actually a marketing agency, and I was the director of technology there. So it was it was different because now I'm working in a place that's actually solely marketing, and we're advertising. But a lot of our clients need a lot of IT help and a lot of software and things like that. So we're always building stuff, but it was always something new. And it was interesting. I liked that a lot.
That's pretty cool. And what kind of marketing was it back then?
I was in charge of all of the digital marketing for them, but we had, so it's a marketing advertising company, so they did everything. You could build flyers, billboards, everything, digital advertising, it's complete, nuts and bolts or soup to nuts or whatever you want to call it. So they would do branding, everything. It was interesting.
That's awesome. What kind of digital advertising was? Because I know nowadays that's a whole can of words.
Well, so that's the thing is that was in 2016. So that's almost 10 years ago now. But
time flies.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still the same stuff. We were still on Facebook, we were still on,
Right.
Google, everything like that. So, I mean, not really much has changed there. It's just some of the platforms now, because now you have TikTok and,
Oh, yeah?
and Instagram was getting pretty popular back in those days. And Snapchat was actually starting to do some advertisement, which never panned out.
Yeah, I always debate which platforms lead to a good ROI, and I've experimented with all of them for the tech company, but like, I've never really thought about Snapchat making anyone an ROI except like individual artists and creators. I could see them. I know they charge for like stuff on that, but like, I'm not sure how many businesses get a positive ROI about the Snapchat platform.
Yeah, I don't. It's difficult, and I don't think it really panned out. I don't think that many people are advertising on Snapchat these days. But I haven't done it in a while, so I'm not really sure. I tell you, the biggest hit we took, we had some of our customers ask us to pay influencers for advertisements.
Oh yeah.
They don't pan out most of the time.
What?
Nah, yeah, people watch the influencers. They don't usually buy what they buy.
They don't want to buy Pepsi or Coke because Britney Spears is drinking it?
No, that's a different type of influencer.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean the
like
ones
small
online,
creators?
yeah, the little
Yeah.
creators and stuff like that. Oh, some of them were really good at their jobs, but
Oh, yeah.
when you're paying them to pan, or to
Push a product?
push a product, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
That's exactly the words. It didn't really pan out the way we would have liked for it to, anyway.
No, I always debate how much value you really get for like even celebrity endorsements. Like I know some people worship celebrities and sports balls players, and like I know some companies are making a positive ROI on that. But like, yeah, I don't know. To me, the most bizarre thing I remember as a kid, I saw a commercial for a Nikon camera with Ashton Kutcher, and I was like, the guy's from that '70s show. He's
Yeah.
known as Kelso. He's written as a funny character. He seems to be a good actor. He does it quite well. He's cool. I guess he's a cool Iowan, but like. He's not a photographer as his hobby. And I asked my parents, like, why do they give him a camera? Why is Nikon giving him millions of dollars? They go, well, people like Ashton Kutcher, they'll probably buy the camera. Like my Uncle George, he's like a camera aficionado. I don't think he'd switch from Canon for that. My parents are like, some people just love celebrities and they might get a lot of money for that. But like even back then, I was like, I don't know. To me personally, unless the influencer, that's their core competency, that's all they do, then it might be a little more of a compelling reason to buy the product. But like, yeah, like a lot of the YouTubers, a lot of those influencers, I really debate like, what's the ROI really for the stuff that they're shilling? Like,
Yeah, and that's being in marketing for a long time. As far as I worked for Commerce House, and then the job I had a couple times after that. You get to see that marketing, you get to see that ROI,
Yeah.
and you get to see that sometimes there's just avenues that don't pan out. And you're right.
yeah.
Celebrities can push a lot of stuff, but they're usually pushing it to the masses, and it's usually brand recognition. It's not necessarily just getting people to buy stuff.
Oh yeah, and then that's the whole debate. It's like, great, everyone knows your brand, but like, what's the ROI long term? Like, brand recognition is awesome, but you still have to get bills paid. So
Yeah, but
that's not a debate in and of itself. I know
It is a
it's
huge
important.
debate, yeah.
Yeah, it is important, but like, companies have to pay bills month to month. Like, what marketing campaigns can be better? More, I don't know. That's a whole interesting debate in and of itself.
yeah, that's maybe a different show. Actually,
that's true.
we could talk about marketing all day long, and really what actually sells, and if brand marketing is actually the most valuable thing or not.
And then actually, on that quick note, would you remember like your favorite campaign that you ran when you were working at the company, or one that really stood out to you the most, or that you thought the most effective?
There were some really interesting things that we did. I'll tell you a few things that I thought were fun, and not necessarily most effective, but we would go above and beyond when we were doing biz dev. So when we were trying to find a new business, like we tried to do the Dallas Zoo one year because they were taking stuff, or taking proposals. We actually put one of our guys, actually the guy that ran all of our online digital advertising, he worked for me, and we put him in a gorilla suit, I think, just to go down there and hand the proposal to the person in charge of the proposals.
I like it.
That was fun. We did a lot of fun stuff like that, and it was really cool. I think one of the coolest things one of the coolest projects that we did work on, we worked on the Center of Brain Health for. I'm trying to think of the name. It's not UT Southwestern, or maybe. Anyway, so the Center of Brain Health, they help a lot of autistic people. They help a lot of people that have a lot of issues with traumatic brain injuries and things like that. And that was fun because what we did is we actually rebranded their website, which helped them get a lot of their donations and things like that. So. Yeah, I mean, we rebranded their whole thing, and we started from the very beginning, figured out what made them work and things like that. And then, as far as the IT side is concerned, we built a website for them, which wasn't the coolest of fun, as far as like, it's just a generic website. But, just going through that process was fun.
So it was just a little bit of a name change made all the difference in the world, or was it messaging or the pictures?
Well, you have to go and figure out what a company's about, right? So you do a lot of interviews, and that wasn't really what my job was, but I got to see it happen, and when you get to see that happen, it's really cool because you're really getting in there doing the interviews with the people that really make a difference in people's lives.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure that was a great ROI in terms of, you said the donations went up after that?
Yeah, I believe I'm pretty sure their donations, I know that their donations went up. They built a whole new center and everything like that, a whole new building right next to where they're at. And they, like I said, they do a lot of good stuff.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's got to be really satisfying to see those campaigns when they really get just knocked out of the park and they have that profound impact.
Oh yeah, it's fun. And like I said, that's probably a whole different, conversation here about marketing and advertising. But yeah, as far as like working there, that was really a lot of fun.
Then where'd you go after that?
After that, I actually went to 7-Eleven.
No way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was joking with my wife one time because so when you're working in, like, say, the marketing advertising, it can be very stressful, right? Mm-hmm. So I was kind of on my way out, and I was joking with my wife. I was driving by 7-Eleven one day before I left Commerce House, and I said, well, they're paying like $17 an hour. Maybe I can just go work there on the counter for a while and just kind of, chill and, decompress, right? Mm-hmm. And, after a while, my boss at Commerce House, he left, and we both kind of left around the same time. Mm-hmm. We were just looking for something different. And irony is that I got a job at 7-Eleven, but it was corporate, right? So I actually took a job there, and I started working with a lot of the teams in the software departments there, and so the app teams and the website teams, and I was actually still working with the marketing team a lot there too. So in their CRM teams. That's very cool. So you got to help build out the 7-Eleven app on the phones? Well, I wasn't the person building it, obviously, but I worked a lot with those guys. I worked a lot with the iPhone and the Android app people. Those are actually really good friends of mine there.
No way.
And the R&D people. And some of the stuff that we did there was really cool. So I don't know if you've been to a lot of these stores, like I think Sam's does it now. Sam's, where you can actually scan from your phone and then pay before you walk out of the store.
No, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you can do that at Sam's. And 7-Eleven decided to do that first.
Really?
They're one of the first companies to do that. And so we built that into the mobile app, and then we actually built a mobile web version of it too. So that was really cool.
Really?
I didn't even think you could do that at the time, but yeah, you could do it. And we did it really well. And 7-Eleven has so many customers as far as on the mobile app. They had more increase in mobile app downloads than I believe the Starbucks app.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
It was interesting to keep that software alive as far as the servers, because we were on AWS at the time.
Yeah, Chang.
Yeah. Well, and then we also built. Did you know you could at the time? And this is like 2017, 2018. I think they actually combined the apps this last year, but they had another app where you could actually do delivery from 7-Eleven. Most people don't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we were running two separate apps at the same time. One was for your rewards.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the one that had everybody pretty much was using. But then we did the 7-Eleven delivery app. And the 7-Eleven delivery app is built with a whole new software, a completely different team. But they all had to interface together because they all had to handle the rewards.
Oh, yeah, because you want the delivery from the app, you want to make sure you get the points when you're ordering that stuff.
Or free stuff, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Really? So the 7-Eleven, they partner with someone like a DoorDash or some third party fulfillment, or how does that
Actually,
work?
originally, no. They had their own drivers, and then they partnered with DoorDash, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, if you want to scale that's a huge increase in labor and headcount. I can't imagine the logistics of doing that.
The logistics were actually the biggest problem with delivery because obviously 7-Eleven has corporate stores, but most of them are franchised.
Oh yeah.
So where do they come from, right? So how do you manage quality? And that was always the biggest challenge.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of working at 7-Eleven? Do you get to work at the iconic corporate campus?
Oh yeah, I was on the corporate campus.
There you go.
Well, I love 7-Eleven personally because it was like working in a startup.
Yeah.
It was interesting because 7-Eleven is one of the oldest companies in the United States. They helped. They invented the to-go coffee cup. Yeah. They invented the Slurpee.
I mean, they invented the concept of being open 7-Eleven, 7 days, 11 hours.
Right.
I mean, back then it was controversial, and now it's opening more hours.
And that was what was fun because you are in this really old, iconic company that everybody knows. But yet, when you were in the digital department, you had a lot of freedom because it was so new. And 7-Eleven's motto at that point in time is they didn't want to be a Blockbuster. They saw all these other, like the Amazon cashierless stores.
Oh, yeah.
I saw those things coming down the pipe. They're like, well, how do we get more people into our stores? And so they actually had another building, which is 3 floors of it were just R&D. So they have held a whole...
For technology?
Yes.
Wow. In addition, because I know the whole department's here, quality assurance and finding new products. That's that whole thing in and of itself.
Yeah, they had a bunch of that. I mean, they had their own test kitchen and stuff like that down below that in the corporate building. But the building for R&D was the crazy one because no one even knew about it until they really started producing a lot of this R&D stuff. And they built their own cashierless store to compete with Amazon. And they built like the mobile scan and pay, which is what we called it at that time. And so then, they built the POVs of it, or POCs, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They built the POCs of it, and it was our job to go out there and develop the real thing. What was really cool working there is when we were building this scan and pay. A lot of these stores, their managers didn't understand this technology anyway, and so they would see someone walk out with stuff, and they thought someone had stolen.
Oh no!
I mean, 7-Eleven, right? There's always usually. It has a stigma for crime anyway, but
well, it's the convenience store thing.
Yeah, and so one of the ways to solve that is that we decided that we were going to build these totems. Now I wasn't the one part of this, but I mean I helped actually figure out what they were going to do as far as whenever they did figured out the software and stuff like that. I was helping a little bit with that. But I thought was really cool is we came up with an idea that we were going to build what we called totems. Basically, they were just these little stands that stood next to the doorways. And so whenever you typed in your phone, scanned everything, paid, then you would get a QR code. You walk over to these things and you would basically hover your QR code, which is a camera in there. It would scan your QR code, validate that you actually purchased the items, and then ring a bell in the store to let the cashier know you just didn't walk out with stuff.
Really?
But we built all those in-house. So they were actually Raspberry Pis, and we 3D printed all the cases and everything like that. And we were just putting them, we think we put them in like 1,000 stores in our test markets.
Yeah.
And then we realized, we have 10,000 stores. So we actually have to send this over to China.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, you can only 3D print so much before it makes sense to do some mass plastic injection mold and get some, buy it in bulk.
Yeah, we ended up having to do that. And I don't even know if they're still running today as far as the totems or those scans, but, it was a fun project.
That's a revolutionary idea, too.
Yeah, and like I said, it was such a fun place to work because, like, one of the other things I got to do, this is right, I don't know if you're familiar with the California privacy, what is it called?
GDPR?
Well, no, the California one.
Yeah, they have their own one.
Yeah, so I can't remember the name of it right at the moment.
There's too many acronyms in IT.
Yeah,
we know the concept, though.
Well, so I was actually in charge of doing that for 7-Eleven because they thought they were going to get sued, and so that was interesting. Another thing that I did really had a lot of fun building, and I actually left. And so usually I don't do this, but I left right before this one got finished. But we were putting together what's called a promotions engine. And it's interesting when you work for a company that is that old. And also, most people don't realize that 7-Eleven is actually owned by a Japanese company today because they got bought out in the 90s. So their promotions engine and their promotions, so like if you buy 2 Snickers and get a Coke for free or something to that extent, whatever those promotions are, those things were actually held in this really old 20-year-old software that was actually housed in Japan.
Oh, no way.
And most of the people that were making these promotions with like the manufacturers, like say Pepsi or Frito-Lay or something like that, they would actually use spreadsheets to go through all these things. So it was just such a nightmare. So we were actually building the new engine for that whenever I left, and it was great because it had to be a part of all of these other the rewards apps. It also had to go to all the stores. It had to be on all the stores. And interfacing with all those stores was crazy.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
People think 7-Eleven is a big thing in America. It is. Go to Japan. You cannot throw a brick without hitting 7-Eleven. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and they don't look like convenience stores.
No, I think I forget the documentary I was watching, but there's like 70,000+ locations. It's astronomical how many sites there are.
Yeah, like I said, 7-Eleven was fun because of all the stuff you got to do, all the interaction with different people. It was a great time.
And I have to ask, do you get like free unlimited Slurpees when you're working outside?
You did not get anything for free while you were there.
No.
Actually, 7-Eleven, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but You couldn't bring in coffee that wasn't 7-Eleven. You couldn't order pizza that wasn't 7-Eleven. So it had to all be that. And you got in trouble if people
Really?
would bring in like coffee mugs just to, to have their own coffee from like Dunkin' Donuts and stuff like that.
Do you have to order it from the app when you're working inside the cubicle, or how'd that work?
No, they had a store downstairs. You just walk
Oh,
downstairs.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, they had coffee everywhere. So you could always get coffee.
Okay. But you couldn't bring in like a Starbucks cup.
No.
They're big on the branding.
Oh, yeah. And they're proud of their coffee. They invented the to-go coffee cup. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that they had the best coffee, but it was all right. It was good.
Pretty good bang for a buck, though.
It was, yeah. I mean, everything they had was pretty good. I actually enjoyed working there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of the most iconic companies in Texas, too.
Texas and I mean, all over the United States, really.
I mean, in terms of I clarify, like in terms of globally, they're headquartered in the U.S. in Texas,
Yes.
but globally they're in Japan. But yeah.
Yeah. And that campus was fun, too. I mean, it was you just get lost in that place.
You ever have fun with like an old Razor scooter up there? They have was it like almost like a tech town, or what was it like?
No. The way that they had I don't know. You could get lost looking for conference rooms.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not going to go through the entire details of it, but it was like 4 stories,
Right.
and it's not the biggest campus in the world, but it was good size, and there's just rooms everywhere.
Oh yeah.
People could hide and sleep in these conference rooms.
Really?
They did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Well, I was gonna say you're working long hours. Why would you need to leave? You got 7-Eleven downstairs. All
That
your
would
needs are right
close,
there.
unfortunately.
What?
It
They
wasn't
closed that
24
one?
hours. Yeah.
Oh, that's almost unfathomable.
You would think that.
Yeah, I mean that is the 7-Eleven store. It's where they test all the concepts. It's connected right to the headquarters.
Yeah. It's funny. I can't guarantee this. I don't think it was a corporate store. I think
What?
it was.
No. It was a franchise? No,
I don't
no.
know. I don't know about that. I'm just messing around. No, it seems like it sometimes, but yeah, it was a corporate store.
There you go. Then where do you go after that?
So I left 7-Eleven, and so ironically, the guy that I worked with at Commerce House, my boss there, and he used to work at the Dallas Morning News, it's kind of irrelevant, but like that's how he came to us at Commerce House, because he was a client, and then he became, he kind of became my boss there, and so we became really good friends. And when we both left at the same time, I went to 7-Eleven. He went to one of our other clients. He left and just kind of did some stuff, and he went to one of our clients called Parker University. Mm-hmm. And Parker University is based out of Dallas. And he called me up. He was for a year. He was trying to get me to go over there.
Really?
And like finally, I was like, all right, I've done some of the things that I wanted to accomplish here. I built a team up. I built several products here. I'm like, yeah, what do you got, right? So he brought me over to Parker University, kind of managed a lot of their marketing IT stuff for them, and so I basically built teams over there and put together a lot of stuff for them.
That's awesome. How much was it different working, going from private sector to the public sector? Was it about the same, or what kind of challenges were there?
Well, so that's a whole different thing. So, you're in 7-Eleven, you're, like I said, an iconic brand, corporate, right? It's a corporate environment. But like I said, it was like you could get lost in there because it was like a startup. And that's one of the things I loved about it. But when you go to a university, I think it's completely different. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of people with a lot of initials after their names, and a lot of them think that they know a lot of stuff, and I'm not dogging on anybody. I loved a lot of those people that I worked with at Park University. There were so many nice people there, but it's just, there's a lot of people just think that they know what they know, and that's a challenge. You're having to kind of push people back a lot. When I left, we'll get to that in a minute, but when I left, I was actually asked by one of the people in charge of the company, not the president, but someone around that, and he basically said, "So when you leave, who's going to say no?" And I thought it was, and it's kind of funny, but I found out that no one says no to the academic side of things.
Really?
Yeah, the academics are like, well, we're the ones that bring in the money, and we're the ones that were here for the students, so no one says no to, they just do what they want. My whole goal there was to protect my team and to protect everybody. So, I didn't want to ever be in a situation where I put my team in a bad spot because someone didn't talk to us first.
Yeah, what was it like working from a technology perspective at the university? What kind of stuff were you doing over there? Were you also doing app development?
So we weren't doing any app development. We did a lot of in-house stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So my team, the people that I worked with, for the most part, we did a lot of software stuff, but it was more in-house. Like, you know, we dealt with website stuff. I ran the marketing team over there as far as digital marketing as well.
Oh, cool.
Because I was doing it at Commerce House.
Yeah.
And so I ran the team there that did all the digital marketing. We interfaced directly with the IT side of things, the traditional IT and
Right.
the servers, but they didn't. Irony is that they had everything in-house.
Really?
So I pushed everything to AWS that I had. And that kind of freaked them out because they weren't used to that. And so, that was an interesting thing because I'm used to working in AWS and cloud environments. And I'd rather have cloud because I can control it a lot easier.
And
Whereas
you scale it a lot easier. You're not waiting days or weeks or months for service to ship to them. Again, talking to the old experience of distributor, the servers aren't shipping from HPE or from Dell to Ingram Micro to the end user. So there's a lot less steps.
Yeah, and then for me, I didn't want to ask the IT people also. That was another thing. So it's kind of a selfish thing on my part. So yeah, I mean, we did some stuff. We built some platforms, some software as a service platforms for the for the university. Yeah, one of them's kind of more social, and it was, it's kind of funny. We actually started the project when I worked at Commerce House because they were our client, and we told them no, it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
They tried to build it anyway.
Of course.
And then, several years later when I actually started working there with them and I took over the project and I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that, but we can do this. And we kind of just turned it into, it wasn't necessarily a social thing. It was more of an e-learning platform.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of people could get they had credits they have to get because they're medical, as far as doctors and things like that for not medical doctors, but, doctor of chiropractic, because that was actually what most of the graduates were.
Really? So it was a whole just like online class learning with quizzes and exams? Or?
Yeah, mostly for that portion of it. And then we also had a lot of, I'm trying to think the rest of it.
Was it to supplement classes or is it replacing all classes or both?
That wasn't, so that part of it was actually for people that had already graduated.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah, so if they wanted to get their continuing education credits, because they have to get so many credits every year, right? So in order to keep their licenses.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So they're already graduated, they already got their license. So we did a lot of e-learning through that so they could help them get their credits. Some of the other cool stuff that we did while we were there is we did a lot of seminars. So I was in Vegas and I was in Orlando and other places like that where we were doing these giant seminars where we bring in thousands of chiropractors and people like that. So since I was part of the marketing team, we would, we were actually doing a lot of the technology marketing part of that, right? So we were building, they didn't really have very good idea how to use their CRMs very well for marketing. So we helped them integrate a lot of that, build out a lot of marketing automation platforms. And then, like I said, a lot of the digital advertising. So we were, tracking people from everywhere, just trying to figure out exactly what their habits were. And I was walking people through that. And, and the other thing is too, when you get into software, which is the majority of the stuff that I've been in, and obviously I've done my fair share with traditional IT servers and stuff like that, but, because that also supports all the software. But one of the things that most people don't understand is the process of it. And, when you're working on like agile processes and things like that, that's a new concept for a lot of people. And amazingly enough, I was able to convince my boss to let me turn the marketing team into an agile process.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that conversation like?
Well, he didn't really understand it. But the conversation was easy. Getting people to do stuff was like herding cats.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's the challenge. You're trying to teach people a whole new way of thinking and concepts. And the problem was, the only reason why I ever went that route is because there was no procedures for anything and people were forgetting things. And so, you're trying to normalize stuff, but you're trying to make everybody feel better about it. You're trying to make them, just trying to make a better flow of the process. And so that, and the irony is I'd just done it at 7-Eleven. So that was why it was so fresh in my mind. I'm like, hey, if I can help 7-Eleven do this for a giant corporation, I can help you guys do it for a smaller marketing department.
That's awesome. And how did the plan be executed and how's the rollout?
The plan was, the plan was fairly simple to go through. I mean, it was a lot of learning, really. And it was just, we rolled it out slowly because it wasn't just like, hey, this is what we're doing. We wanted, I did a lot of classes on teaching people how to work through Agile and even Scrum, and I feel good about that because it's when people don't understand how that works and why, or they're just told this is what they're supposed to be doing, then that's the challenge you run into. You want to educate people. You're selling it to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can only push someone so much just to say, hey, you have to do this versus they want to do it.
Like leading a horse to water or something?
Oh, yeah, precisely. Yeah. And then what made you decide to leave the university system and go back to the public or private sector?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm at Parker for about 3 years. And typically when I move around, or when I start a job, or even work with a company, even if it's my own company, usually I set some goals, right? So I don't want to just be at a company forever. I want to be able to do stuff. I want to be able to build teams. I want to be able to build people. I want to be able to build projects or applications or something, right? And so at Parker, kind of felt like it was towards the end of my tenure there. I'd already built multiple people's teams up, and I built, trained product managers. Obviously, I turned them into kind of an agile type of Scrum. I mean, it wasn't completely Scrum, but it is agile, and they taught them pretty much most of everything they wanted to do. And then, along comes I get a call from one of the guys that used to be the president of James One, the original company I started working at, and then he was also the president of Bridge Metrics. And he said, hey, I've got a friend who's building this software, and he's hired this company to do it, and it's a big mess. And I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, well, could you just talk to him? So I called him up, or he called me, and we kind of talked for a little while. And I'm like, look, I'm not really ready to leave, but I'll do some consulting. And one thing led to another, and I started doing some consulting work for about 6 months with him. And I was just like, this is some really cool stuff. I really like this. So I'm like, so we kind of worked it out, and after about 6 months, I decided to come on full time, and and they still had an external team, and we decided to bring some people in and kind of train them and really start to build this whole company out. It was a lot of, it's still a lot of fun. I'm still there.
Yeah. That's very cool. Then what's the company do, and what have you guys been up to?
Yeah, so the company is Bluechip Insights, and sorry to not lead with that.
No worries.
But so it's such a really interesting thing. So it's a data analytics company with software as a service platform. So it's really two different pieces. We actually have data scientists. We have a team of data scientists that figure out a lot of this really cool stuff, and then we have a software side of things where we're building that so people can use it. And realistically, what it is that so commercial real estate is what the company kind of supports today, but it can really be used in a lot of different factors. But what it's doing is it's taking a lot of this information you might get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics or the Census Bureau and really showing it visually where people can understand it. So you might have a location, like let's just say where you're at, right where we're at today, and or even you wanted to go to a co-location or something like that, a colo. Yeah. And you're trying to figure out what is my resources in that area, right? And maybe I want to hire a bunch of people, right? And you either want to move your location, or is this the right location? Do I need to move? And so you can really put a lot of this information into the system and say, hey, what does the job market look like over there? Or what is it compared to here? How many people are living there that have access to that place? How long is it going to take them to get there? Or if I have a bunch of employees, let's say if I had like 150 employees at a location, but I'm looking at a different lease in a different building, it might be like 20 miles away or 30 miles away. You can see how many people is going to have a shorter drive time, longer drive time. And if I lose people over here, what does the job market look like over there? Is there a bunch of people over there that I could actually get to work for me? And if I paid them X amount of dollars, how many people would actually be available to me? Or if I wanted to pay them the 75th percentile or the 90th percentile, is it going to make sense for me to move there? Or do I need to stay here? And so we look at a lot of this job market data.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we have a lot of data on.
I'm guessing also businesses would benefit from that, not just real estate companies, but if like a company was looking to move their headquarters, that sounds like really valuable data for them too.
Well, and that's the whole thing, is that the commercial real estates are using the agents, the brokers actually are using this to go and get companies, because they're showing them and saying, hey,
really?
They use it for two different things. You can use it for biz dev or actually just to help the company out. So if it's a current client, they'll be like, hey, Neiman Marcus, I understand where you're at today, but maybe if you moved up here 5 miles, you'd have a better, your lease would be different, but everybody's got a lease. So that doesn't make sense. So let's talk about your labor. Let's talk about your employees. How far are they going to drive? Are you going to lose employees? Or are you going to, is it going to be cheaper for you to move to a different city? Or is it all these other key indicators that most people don't think about when they think about companies? And so it's a separator for a lot of these brokers that would actually use this software.
So I'm guessing you're working with a lot of companies leaving California for Texas?
Well, that's actually an irony. One of the things that I think is really cool is one of the companies that we've recently worked with is actually Frisco, the Economic Development Corporation.
Really?
Yeah, the EDC. So most people really don't hear about the EDC too much if they don't understand what that whole thing is. But every city pretty much has an EDC, an Economic Development Corporation. Those are the people in that job. It's their job to go out and find companies to bring into the city and to give them, tax breaks, incentives. Yes. Yeah. And so their job is to figure out what exactly they need to do, right? So who do they go after? Do we go after a Toyota? Well, probably not, because it's too big of a company, and they're not going to move 100 yards across the tollway, right?
Yeah.
In our situation,
they're not going to move that giant headquarters they built.
Right. Yeah. But they did steal JCPenney for a little while when JCPenney had their problem with their campus. And so they were here for a little while. And obviously you look at some of the stuff that they did with the Frisco Star, with the Dallas Cowboys.
ADHD question, are they back? Because I remember the old iconic JCPenney building.
It's still there.
It's still there, but then the bankruptcy came. Then they moved out to the old EDS campus. Then now they're back at the corporate campus again?
Yeah, so I have a lot of this information because I work with a lot of these people that work with them. So they were in Frisco for about a year or two until they figured it out. But NTT bought that building.
Really?
And then now they lease it back to them.
Smart.
But the campus is empty. So there's only like 1/5 of what the people that were in there before. So
wow.
We were actually one of our brokers was actually one of the people that helped start the company. He's one of the partners, and he was actually going to try to help us get an office over there at one point in time. And I didn't go see it, but one of our salespeople went over there, and she's like, "It's a ghost town."
It kind of reminds me of the old EDS campus at 5400 Legacy Drive.
Yep.
Like, that's how I got into IT. And even back then, like 10 or 13 years ago, like I was working in one of the, I forget if it was the West or East Wing, but like we got the campus tour, and you saw the gym, the doctor, and the cafeteria. They go, oh yeah, that entire part of the building, the whole half, that's been occupied for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, really? It's like, yep.
Yeah, apparently it's very creepy over there, but I mean, like, I don't know what creepy. EDC probably, but the JCPenney campus too.
No, the old EDS campus. I never did find
EDS,
Ross. I never did find Ross Perot's gold.
Yeah,
I did find some old cool EDS swag that may or may not have left the premises.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere around here.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's like, it's an issue when you have all that space and you want to go for those maximum contracts. Because I looked into like, how much could you lease some of that EDS building for? It's like minimum square footage translated to like $250,000 per month.
Yeah.
So you have to be a pretty big company to justify that. And corporate real estate's always evolving. But I guess now Lace Development is going to be turned into a pharmaceutical campus or research development. That's what I've heard lately.
I've heard that too. Yeah. I've heard that. Now with, like I said, with Bluechip Insights, what we're trying to do is actually make a lot of this data more available, because you can, a lot of these brokers can actually go out and pay another company to do this for them. But the problem is going to cost them anywhere. A single broker who's basically like an independent sales rep, right? It's going to cost them $10,000 to $15,000 to do this, and it may take them 2 or 3 months to return around and get some of these reports back.
Wow.
I mean, with our company, if you can't get what you need in the SaaS, we have data scientists who can actually produce the reports for you. And so that's a big thing too. So, and they can do it within days, and it's fractions of that cost, and they do a great job. These kids are smart. I mean, I say kids because they're younger than me, but a lot of people are these days. But I mean, they're really good, and they really understand corporate and real estate when it comes to that. Now, and I tell you that it's funny because it's like I say corporate real estate. But that's not all of our platform can be used for. It can be used for HR purposes. You could look for people if you're looking to move your your company and you're in HR and you're saying, all right, how many people is this going to affect?
True.
Or what is this going to help with our bottom line? Is it going to be cheaper for our employees over here to live? Because we can also do cost of living.
Oh, that would help.
Yeah, because we can tell about the cost of living, tell you how far you'd have to drive. We can figure out the cost of that distance, what it's really going to do. And we can basically estimate how many employees you might lose, how many employees you could actually pick up that may be a cheaper rate, all these other things. And so it's not just corporate real estate. It does deal with HR, and then obviously the EDCs of the world figured out how to use it too, because one of the cool things that we've actually done with them, we actually went out there and found some data. Well, we purchased it, but geo cell phone data.
Oh, really?
One of the things that the EDC of Frisco wanted to know was called labor shed. And labor shed to them is defined by them as basically anybody that lives in Frisco but does not work in Frisco. And so they wanted to know how many people were leaving Frisco for jobs. And that's kind of a good indication of like what they need to do as far as to bring more people, live and work and play in Frisco. But what we could do is we could actually identify how many people were leaving, where they were working, kind of the industry. So that helps them figure out who do they need to go and target.
Really?
And they may not target the people here in the DFW Metroplex, but they could target in a different city, bringing those same people.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, you live in Frisco, why are you driving down to the tollway every day?
That's an ingenious idea.
Yeah, so it's a really cool thing that we were able to do because the data that we had from the cell phone data is, I mean, to be honest with you, it's downright freaky.
Of course, yeah.
But everybody has it.
Of course,
and it's really interesting to be able to mess with.
Especially the telemetry. I'm sure it's also for commercial real estate. If you're looking to put a brick and mortar somewhere, you always want to know those foot traffic statistics in terms of, how many people are walking by that store. Does it make sense to lease it? Same with the corporate campus. If you have the highest density of people walking by it, I mean, it's a pretty good place to be. A lot of convenience factor.
Yeah, and that's a really cool thing too, because if we have that data, we can also do foot traffic for restaurants, everything else. If we really wanted to, we could actually tell you, all right, so these people, this type of people go from this location to this location, and so you make sense if you put something here.
Yeah. Or and then go tie it back into marketing. Makes sense to give that individual person a coupon because they have high propensity of going to do that same activity. Maybe they just need to incentivize a little more, increase the frequency of doing that activity again. Maybe they buy one more hamburger or whatever the store is selling that day.
That's true. And then another thing that we can do with this platform as well, which is kind of outside of the geo cell phone tracking, we can actually do what's called mosaic profiles. And so Experian has a profile on everybody in the United States that has credit.
Okay.
So for every address that there is in the United States, family, household, I can tell you kind of average income, how many kids they have, what's their profile. And their profile is there's basically, I can't remember the exact numbers because I'm not the data scientist here, but there is a large group of numbers of like A, B, C, D, or E, how they qualify people. And then each one of those under A, B, C, and D has like its own number. So maybe A01, A02, A03. The A's are the haves, and as it gets down to the lowers past the ends, those are the have-nots. Those are the people that don't make as much money.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about marketing purposes. Well, we can tell you exactly who's purchasing at the profile of people that are purchasing at your location or what your employees are, things like that, or who you should go target. So there's some really other cool information that we have available to us in this platform.
That's incredibly invaluable, especially these days. Everyone's looking for a better ROI and trying to find the perfect client for whatever they're selling.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we were able to provide a lot of that in today's world.
And I'm sure I know a lot of companies maybe they have some NDAs. Is there a specific client that you're most proud that you've worked with, or that maybe your most proud use case lately?
I mean, I think the EDC one's really one of the coolest ones that I've worked with lately. We have our largest client today is Cressa, which is a real estate company. They're global, and so they're our closest and largest client. But we cheated. Cool. Our partners are actually work for Cressa, so that's part of the issue. But yeah, no, they're great. Yeah. And I love working with them. The EDC is probably one of our coolest use cases so far.
Definitely.
Just because I just love data and I love getting more of it. And so that whole geo cell phone tracking thing is really cool.
I can't imagine. It'd be fascinating to see the logistics and just like how big Frisco has grown in the past couple of decades. Like some of the biggest logos in the world have relocated to Frisco and Plano. I mean, I think Toyota is probably one of the most well-known on the planet, where they famously went to Plano was like 10 or 15 years ago. That new corporate campus is amazing.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I can't imagine that sales rep from the Plano Labor of Commerce or just calling them up like, hey, do you want to relocate here?
Well, I mean, Amazon was Frisco was vying for Amazon for a while too.
Oh yeah, very true.
Yeah, so I didn't win that one, but it was close.
Oh yeah, because I know for a while Amazon was doing that whole campaign, which where should we relocate for our unofficial headquarters to? I forget the specific name they're looking about, but every city, I mean,
Everyone wanted
that logo,
and you can understand why. I mean, as far as an incentive, and or to even bring more people in.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I don't know where Frisco was going to put them.
I mean,
there's
I'm
not
sure
a lot of real estate left.
Maybe go on the y-axis, or go down, or go a and go underground. I don't know. They find a way.
Yeah. I know. But Frisco's great. I mean, it's just working with them. It's a lot of fun.
And then were you saying when we worked with the Frisco Star or the Cowboys, or what were you saying like comments go?
Well, so my old office was out of the Star.
Oh, yeah. I know that area.
And that's because we were working with Cressa.
Oh, okay.
Cressa,
Gotcha.
Cressa's the global company. That's the global real estate company that the partners work with.
That's very cool.
Yeah, actually, the Star is funny because we were on the third floor of the Star overlooking the Cowboys practice and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not the biggest, football fan these days, but, it's super cool, just being around all those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Pretty sure Jerry Jones made a lot of money off real estate past couple of years.
Oh, yeah. He lands his helicopter on that field all the time, too. That's just even funnier. Yeah, he is, well, talk about someone who's smart with their real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously very intelligent when it comes to that.
And what do you think the future is for the company? Are you guys going to continue down the same avenues, or you think you'll further diversify the clientele and the technologies? Or what are you most excited about?
That's a great question. I mean, right now we are in the process of just going through our roadmap, right? And so we're trying to lock a bunch of this stuff down. I mean, we're an AWS shop, right? So we're trying to make it more sustainable and then scalable. That's our immediate goal. As far as getting out there, we're really just trying to pull in a bunch of different clients, right? So a bunch of logos. We're a startup, so it's mainly logos and investments is right is where we're going after. But we'd love to get HR. We'd love to start working with retail clients with some of our data that we have, and we just like to build our base as far as the commercial real estate aspect. Right now we have a decent amount of clients right now. We have obviously one major client, which is Cressa, but we'd like to expand that a lot further, and so that's what our salespeople are doing today.
I was going to say they got some big logos to knock on doors, especially in Texas and especially in DFW.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean we try to stay away from some of these like the JLLs and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just so we have kind of a contract with Cressa, and so we don't want to. That's one of their major competitors.
Oh. That makes sense. Okay,
and it's fine too because there's so many other of these smaller real estate brokers out there, broker shops that we can go out there and tackle and really just actually it's funny because commercial real estate's taking a hit after 2020.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the businesses from my tech companies I've been working with past couple of years. I mean, the biggest trend is either shrink that corporate campus down to nothing and then go take the data, put it in a colo. Or just eliminate it and just get 2 colos for your data centers, or just go to the cloud and VR.
That's why you come to us because we can help you figure out what you need to do and where to go.
You can calculate that down to the dollar amount. You can actually have the ROI and show the value of going to different areas.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
really
the thing
cool.
is that we can also show you what the value is to have people working at home versus actually a location and kind of do that hybrid model, which is what a lot of people are doing today, and maybe you don't need your corporate headquarters in the place you've had it before. And so I think there's a lot of things that people really need to take a look at these days as far as a corporation, whether you're a small business or a big business, that's that whole real estate thing is costing you a lot of money and might be empty.
Very true, and it might be the preference of the workers. Some people just love going to the office, the camaraderie, the old water cooler talks. I mean, other people hate. I mean, I know some people. I mean, prior to the pandemic, where that really kind of spurred the work from home, they're spending an hour and a half to get to work, and then you have to worry about gasoline, tolls, depreciation in your car.
I mean, I don't want to get political, but I mean, especially the price of gasoline today, right?
Oh, yeah.
You just can't just drive to South Dallas all day.
No,
it's just not sustainable for most people. So yeah, I think in the commercial real estate space, and especially for the stuff that we do and the data that we are trying to put together for everyone, it's phenomenal. I think we're in the right spot at the right time. It's just challenging for brokers these days.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see what the future is for businesses in terms of preferences. Because another big variable of, going back to the offices, going back to not to get political, but the tax incentives that cities give some businesses to pull them there. Because again, when you have that, not only in many states you get the income tax, but in Texas, we have a pretty high sales tax. So if all those employees go to that headquarters, well, what's around the headquarters? Shops, restaurants, and all those things where they go and they usually spend their disposable income. You have that big ripple effect on the local economy as well.
Yes, yeah, and that's exactly what places like the EDC and Frisco are trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
How do I get people to live, work, and play here?
Yeah.
And what do I need? And the thing is that most people don't realize when you're looking at stuff like this, and some of the things that I talk to them about is, we're not just talking about how many businesses can I get here, but what about infrastructure? So if I do land all those businesses, can we support them?
Yeah.
And, if you've lived in Frisco for very long, like I have, I haven't lived there that long, but about 10 years, you've seen it explode and you've seen the houses and the apartments and things like that. And so that's And the EDC is also responsible for that. They're trying to figure out, do they really want to put more apartments, or are they single family homes? What do they need to do because infrastructure? And if they bring the businesses, how do they support them?
Yeah.
And what's the influx of labor shed? So do I start pulling from Plano? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you creating new jobs, or are you just cannibalizing jobs and then moving?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything has something to go along with it. I think that was one of the coolest things, to be able to help them try to build this plan out, because they're building a 5-year plan right now into a 10-year plan. And so that's one of the things that we're helping them do.
And then what do you think, the kind of the cliche question in real estate, where do you think is going to be the hottest market in terms of, I guess, for businesses moving their headquarters? I know Texas and Florida the past couple of years have been really hot, getting a lot of net new logos, a lot of businesses moving there. Do you think that'll be the foreseeable future past couple of years, or where do you?
That's the trend right now. I mean, the biggest challenge is you look at places like New York. I talked to some of the brokers up there, and they're just dying right now. Because there's just like, and I'm not literally, but I mean, they're starving. Yeah, that's a great word for it. They're not. Almost all that stuff is unleasable.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah,
and so it's just so expensive, and people are trying to dump it off their books. So.
And that's also, can businesses do tax calculations as well in your app?
No, not today.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Because that's another reason. Like, again, it's one of those things where a lot of people are leaving California and New York, and they're saving hundreds of millions of dollars just on the corporate taxes.
Right. Yeah.
I forget if Elon Musk has quantified it yet, but with SpaceX as well as Twitter leaving California to Texas, I mean, they're going to be saving hundreds of millions of dollars, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge savings as well. And that's one of the, I mean, they also have Tesla that's headquartered also in Texas. So there's an extra incentive to have the companies maybe consolidate, but, well, not, in terms of consolidation, logistics and stuff like that. But I mean, there's a huge upside to coming to the States. I think Oklahoma would really explode if they just got rid of some of those taxes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We don't do that today, and that's something we can definitely look into. I think that one of the things that we're trying to accomplish, or what we've done so far, is really just turn the head on why people choose a location versus the other. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is that a lot of these brokers and people that are helping you, they can put together a sheet and they can say how many square footage it is, what's the cost per square foot, what are the amenities, all these other things. What they don't tell you is that, hey, if you move here, you're going to have to pay X amount of dollars less or more to your employees, because there isn't livable area where you want to move to. Maybe like if you put here's a good example. Frisco's expensive to live in.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if you put a location in Frisco, what does the market of employee people look like? Are you bringing in low-paying job company? Well, they're all going to have to come from the Colony, Plano, or they're not going to be able to live in Frisco.
Yeah.
Right. So, how far are they going to have to drive, and what incentives are you going to get them? Are you going to pay them more than what they should be getting paid, and how does that affect your bottom line? So all these things you have to consider whenever you really look at the real estate.
It's a lot of variables. 'Cause again, from their perspective too, if you're a new hire to like a lower entry level job, then you have to consider, well, again, going back to the infrastructure, well, highway costs, you have to worry about taxes on the tolls, and you have to worry about the fuel taxes with the gas in your vehicle. So you have to make sure all those numbers don't exceed the actual amount of money that you're earning on the job, because otherwise you would go negative.
Right.
So there's all those variables to take into account as well. But yeah, I have a couple of friends in real estate, and they told me New York is rough.
Yeah, it is.
It's just, again, some of these areas is very prohibitive to have a business. You have to have a lot of resources to cover the additional increased overhead over there as well.
Yeah, well, the taxes are just ridiculous. So that's I mean, don't want to have the whole real estate conversation, but I mean, that's kind of what we do, though. And what we're trying to really do is just show it, from a labor perspective, and what is your employee population? Are you going to keep them? Are you going to lose them? Are you get new employees and things, and how does that really affect your bottom line? So I think that's one of our core things. We're kind of really saying, hey, your people are your most important aspect, and real estate's a part of your cost, but it's not even close to the cost as your people, as the number of people that you have.
Very true. I wish a couple, I'll say I wish HPE had your tech back in the day, because again, from their cost analysis, they used to have the inside sales center in Conway, Arkansas, and they were paying a certain rate for the employees there, and they were doing quite well. Then when I joined, they were relocating to Texas for inside sales, and the pay rate was a little bit more, but it wasn't sustainable for DFW.
Right,
so there's a very high turnover rate, not because of not because of all the managers necessarily. It wasn't the technology, but just for fiscal reasons. And management didn't realize, well, why are people leaving? Well, because of the high cost of labor in Dallas, Fort Worth, especially the Plano area, it just wasn't sustainable as a career for the folks, for a lot of them. So a lot of people who didn't want to grind it out inevitably left.
Yeah.
But if they had your technology, we'll be able to easily see the correlation of, hey, this is a new market. We need to you need to raise the pay rate by X, Y, and Z to be competitive with local businesses and also keep up the cost of living because the apartments, everything is much more expensive compared to Arkansas.
Yeah, and that's exactly where it makes sense when it comes to the HR aspect of it, right? So you're thinking about talent acquisition, you're talking about pay, you're talking about and things like that. So one of the things that you can do with our application on the SaaS side of things, and obviously we could do it with the custom side with the data analyst too, but you can easily just throw an address, say, hey, what occupation am I talking about, and what's the drive time, and it'll pull all those data together to give you cost of living, give you DEI. Tells you the education level, race of the people in the area, and then it'll also tell you what like age level. So this is another important thing, right? So if you're really considering putting like say a warehouse place, right? So well, I mean, what are you looking for? You're not looking for people in the age of 55, probably. You're probably looking for someone in the 20s, right? Male, female. What is your normal hire? But if you look at that and you're saying, hey, I put in this address, put in like a drive time of 15 or say 30 minutes because that's the maximum everybody wants to drive, and then the occupation, and like, what does that really look like? So what's the cost of living in that area, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much is a bedroom apartment? How much is a one room? How much is a single family home? What is the pay on, the 10th percentile all the way up to the 90th percentile, what they should be getting paid over here in this area? And then, what does the age look like, right? And so, do I have enough people to support that? And the same, do I need people with college education? Do I need people with multiple degrees? Do I need people with just high school? So all of these things you would normally take a look at, and it'd take you a little while to put this stuff together, or people don't look at all.
Yeah.
You can do this with just like in 5 seconds, really. You just put the address in, and it puts it, with 5 seconds, it returns all that information, and then it maps and stuff like that. So it's really cool.
That's incredible. I can only imagine, like, if you want to do that manually back in the day, how many days or weeks it would take to have you run those calculations with all those variables.
Yeah, I don't think you would do it. I mean, even if you're in HR, you're not going to be able to do all that.
Yeah.
It's just you wouldn't have enough time.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot of fun to work with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then going outside the office, what do you like to do when you unplug?
Oh, well, I haven't been running as much as I wanted to lately because I like to run outside and it's so hot.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah,
we're in Texas.
It's treadmill weather.
Yeah, if I had one. No, I like to run. I like to get outdoors. I like to camp. I like to do things like that. I'm big into sailing, even though there's not much sailing around here unless I'm on the Lake Louisville. I sold my boat a couple years ago.
What?
Yeah, I had a boat on Texoma. Well, actually, I had one on Louisville for a while, and then I got a bigger one, put it on Texoma, and then we had a drought flood every summer. So it's like, it's one or the other, and I just didn't get to use it that much, so I decided to sell it. But honestly, that's what I love to do. I like to go to the ocean and go sailing, go to the British Virgin Islands, spend a week there. That's so much fun to me. I'm big into technology, even though I think I alluded to you earlier. I kind of hate tech sometimes because it just rules my life. But
true, it's never escapable.
No, but I mean it's fun. I actually, as a hobby, I like to do things like Raspberry Pi or Arduino, things like that. I like to build. I like to build stuff with electronics, do a lot of soldering and stuff like that.
What's your favorite thing you built?
Favorite thing I built. I'm trying to think. Recently, I kind of went through a tutorial, and it was. Really, I took a radio apart for ham radio and turned it into what's called a Pi Star. So I took a Raspberry Pi, connected it through that. There was a lot of soldering and a lot of fiddling with audio jacks.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it turns it into basically where you can use ham radio your ham radio is a node, and then you can connect to what's called Pi Star, which is an all-star network. So you can connect anybody around the world through the internet. So that's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super fun just to work on stuff like that, know, and it's frustrating when it doesn't work, but it's fun to build stuff. And that's where I really enjoy. Other than that, outside of that, my main focus lately is the last 3 months I just had a child. So
congrats.
Yeah,
there you go.
So I have a 3-month-old boy, and
excellent.
That's actually all I've been doing lately. I'm
that
really
makes
good
sense.
good at changing diapers.
Hey, there you go. That's invaluable talent.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that's kind of the main thing I've been working on a lot lately. So, and that's obviously my pride. So I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, out of curiosity, how did you get into sailing? That's a very specific hobby. That's pretty cool. I've only been sailing once or twice. When I was a kid, I'll never forget it.
I'm from Kansas. So
What?
yeah, I'm from Kansas. We don't have a lot of lakes. So
Yeah.
that's funny. I always say that because everybody asks me that. I want to say, what is it, 2024? So about 13 years ago, my sister I have an older sister, and she came up to me and she called me, I guess, and said something about she went on a sailboat. And I'm like, a sailboat?
Yeah.
The hell's a sailboat? I'm like, I know what they are, but like, what do you do? How do you, is that even fun?
Yeah.
And she was on some lake in Oklahoma, and I said, okay, I'm going to look into this. And so I looked into it, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to figure out how to do this, because my goal in life is not just to learn things. I like to learn skills, right? And I've been on many boats before that have motors, and if you can be on a motor boat and you can drive a car, you can pretty much drive a motorboat. I mean, it's the same concept. There's a little bit different things going on there, but same concept. Sailing is completely different. So I took some classes, and like a month later, I bought a small boat.
Wait, there's a class for this hobby?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of them. You can do certifications.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got like 7 certifications. I'm trying to get my captain's license right now.
That's pretty cool. Is it an online class, or where do you find these?
No, the certifications you have to go places for. So
really?
I don't think there's any around here very often. So you can look at it. I actually go to Houston whenever I do mine, or Galveston area.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so I've done, so that you can do like basic sailboat, and then they do like these cruising ones, and then bareboat charters, like if you wanted to rent your boat somewhere. And then I think there's one that's like mapping. So you basically learn how to read maps and stuff and figure it out without GPS.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's just fun to me. I like to learn new stuff. I'm actually working on celestial navigation too right now. I'll never get that one done.
No way.
It's not easy.
I can imagine. I was going to say, navigating anywhere without a smartphone these days has got to be unfathomable for most people.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that. So, I mean, I've always enjoyed, we used to take road trips with maps, back in the day, because I'm old.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and so that's the fun part, right? So just figuring stuff like that out. And sailing's, like I said, it's a lot different, right? And it's a skill. Like most people don't understand it.
What was the most difficult part, or the biggest learning curve experience you had when you were getting into that hobby?
How to understand what everything is. There's so many things. I mean, most boats there's sloops these days that come with 2 sails. So you got a foresail, you got a mainsail, but then just figuring out the terminology. I mean, like I was just reading something the other day, and I read something. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is, because I've never heard of that before. I'm like, how have I not heard of this? I had to go Google it a bunch, and finally found the answer. It's like I knew what it was, but it's just, I mean, I knew it has a different name.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of the hard thing. Just the terminology was the hardest thing, because there's so many names for things. If you don't use them every day, you forget what they are.
I can see that.
That knots.
Yeah, I never did get that. Yeah.
How to tie? You learn how to tie knots.
There's so many of them, though.
Well, you only need a few.
Oh, really? Okay.
On a sailboat.
They look more complex. I haven't done that since I was in the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, that's funny too, because same here, and I still remember how to tie all of them. I haven't been on a boat in a while, but that's a challenge. It's just you want to keep all these skills fresh. And so the last time that we were actually out doing a lot of fun, we went to the British Virgin Islands in 2019.
Oh, nice.
And we sailed around the British Virgin Islands for 7 days, or actually 8 days. And so we just hit a different island every day, and your boat is your means of transportation, and it's also your place where you're staying. So it was just a lot of fun. And we were supposed to go back the next year, and then COVID hit, so we didn't get to make it there. I tell you, the fun thing to do is like when you go if you've ever been to like an all-inclusive place in Mexico, that hotel, a lot of times they have these little boats like Hobie cats. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They're usually 2 little pontoons on them. They're really not very big. They hold like 3 people. That's fun, because I always go out and get those, and then we'll go out there for an hour or 2 and just kind of sail, my wife and I, and you can get out there pretty fast, and it gets kind of scary a little bit sometimes, a little tossed up. But
that's pretty cool.
It's fun. And I also do here in Louisville. I don't belong to the club, but the Dallas Corinthians Yacht Club, which is actually in Louisville, I guess it's right over here. They have races a lot, and I actually go do the races with one of the guys over there. So,
oh, really? What kind of boats are you using the race?
I think it's a 22-foot Capri made by Catalina. So that's the boat that the guy that owns, and he always calls me up to go up and do it. So I always go out there with him.
Is it a speedboat or a sailboat?
No,
or
they're
what kind of-
sailboats.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they do sailboat regattas is what they're called when they do races. I don't know why they call them regattas, but
It sounds fancy and cool.
yeah, it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
You're on a yacht.
Yeah.
It's 22 feet long. But no, it's fun because you get out there with a bunch of people that are out there sailing, and they're trying to win. You know, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Richard.
Well, thank you so much.
Again sometime.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Don't forget to take the time to like, subscribe, and comment. We're also on Spotify, Rumble. Check us out. Thank you so much for taking the time. Don't forget to take time again to like, subscribe, and comment again. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe. Topping Talks.